We all have those moments, don't we? The ones where we look at ourselves and we look back and we think, why didn't I do it then? Why didn't I ever go for it? When you're young, you feel like the world will be waiting for you. And it's just so easy to think that you have all the time in the world. But one thing that I've learned that has definitely been told many times is time isn't waiting for you. It moves on, the clock is ticking, and at some point, the path that you could have taken starts to close. But here's the thing, we don't need to wait for time to run out before we act. I sat down with myself not too long ago for a full hour without distractions and really just did a lot of reflecting, which I've done many times in my life, but I don't think that I've ever really taken time to just sit and just be still. But if there's one thing that I've realized, it is there has always been certain dreams in my heart and in my soul, but there's also been this nagging feeling of you're not good enough, you're not pretty enough. And you know, when you try to go for something and you feel like you just get smacked in the face by the world, or that massive sense of imposter syndrome, or you really get met with your own limitations and your own negative self-talk and really your own bad habits and your own bad actions, your own self-sabotage essentially. And there are just certain themes in my life personally where for a while now I have just been taking action despite all the negative self-talk, and I am so happy that I have. I still personally have a long way to go. One big jump for me that I have taken is starting dance classes to be really comfortable with performing. And that's scary. These things are scary because you get met with the reality of where your dreams are currently at. And I think when you look at something, when you look at me objectively, I definitely have come far, but there's still a long way to go. And I think you get to a certain point in life where you decide that either I keep going or I keep looping back with self-sabotage. I keep taking a step forward and then I take two back. And it comes in different ways, that voice, where sometimes it's that voice of you are just not pretty or you're not skinny enough, because I used to be very overweight. Or look at that girl, look at that other girl, look at this creator, or look at this author or singer, like all of these certain different elements of the dream that I have. I've learned that I have many negative thoughts, and I think they're amplified because I'm finally doing something positive in my life. And that can only lead to somewhere good. And I want to convey that message, especially as someone who's in the middle of the process and trusting what I've learned. Because the truth is, as many negative thoughts as I have, I've realized that I almost just as quickly will just naturally combat those thoughts with a positive thought or a positive affirmation, or just a very logical sort of parenting voice that says, what are you going to gain from comparing yourself to this other person? Or if this person is triggering you or this situation is triggering you, it's still about you. Or if you don't feel pretty enough, A, what can you do about it? Two, it's probably mostly inner work if you're healthy and you take care of yourself. Don't disappoint your inner child and don't let down your old self, your older self. Meaning, my happy, free inner child, but also the child that I used to actually be, would be so creative, and she was singing and dancing and performing, and she loved being wild. And at a certain point, I tamed that, and most importantly, I started shaming her for it. And I've really almost put on this mask and become 10% of who I really am. Granted, I'm speaking for maybe the person I was a year or two ago, and I've really come a long way since then, but it's still scary to be in this process. And I feel like the more I'm doing, the more these things keep crawling back in. And I feel like I still have shame from the things I haven't done. And that just really leads me to a vision of who I am when I'm an old woman. Because Someone like Meryl Streep or Jane Fonda, these women have always been so iconic to me because of what they represent and because of their personalities and because of how iconic they are. Not how Instagram pretty they are, but because of how iconic they are. And iconic essentially means that you're this amazing person that's completely 100% original and yourself. And it's so funny that we want to be these things, but then most importantly, we really want to fit in and we really want to be like everyone else. That's confusing, but I don't believe that's how we're going to be happy at the end of the day or at the end of our lives. And I feel there are dreams. It is so easy to say, I'll start tomorrow, or when the timing is right, I'll go after what I want. But guess what? Tomorrow actually never comes because time is a concept. So tomorrow is simply a concept we've made up. Really, tomorrow is a placeholder for today's excuses. The idea that we're going to start when everything is just perfectly lined up is the biggest freaking lie that we tell ourselves. We wait until everything's perfect, until we're ready, until the situation is just right. And the truth is, that's just not how life works. Because life is now. And I've told myself that so many times that whether or not you like where you are, life is still happening right now. So if you're dreaming for someday else, that doesn't change that time and life is happening right now. But think about this. If not now, in 10 years, in 30 years? Because ultimately, when you add up all the times you've said tomorrow, we're probably getting to years at this point. And the truth is, we all know that we're going to look back and the only thing we're going to regret is not having acted on the things we wanted. It's never going to be, God, I wish I had spent more time on my phone. God, I'm so embarrassed that I slipped on stage that one time. I'm so embarrassed I told that girl that I liked her. Whatever it is personally that you've experienced that sometimes comes into our mind and we feel so embarrassed, that's just not what's going to be on your mind. But I've learned something really deep, and it's that it's not about waiting until everything's right. It's about when you dare to show up in situations where you have fear and you still show up and you show up again and again. That is really powerful. You can't sit and always wait for someone else to tell you that it's your turn. You can't sit and wait for somebody else's validation. I've had to get brutally honest with myself and the things that I still need to change and the habits I still need to change. For example, I have a lot of clutter. I tend to be cluttered specifically when it comes to ideas, and I let things just gather and collect. But the problem with these things are that when you never do anything about it, it just gathers dust. And I don't care if it's clothes, if it's books, or if it's ideas. There is this concept that your creative ideas have a shelf life and they will go somewhere else if you don't do anything about it. Haven't you ever had this great idea and then you procrastinate, and then when you finally get to it, like 2 months later, you realize it's not there anymore. The magic of it is gone. So this isn't about taking small steps. It's really about radical action, decisive action. And sometimes that means doing things that scare you. Sometimes that means getting really uncomfortable and confronting the parts of you that you're really scared to change. So what would it look like for you to show up and take radical action in your life when things aren't perfectly aligned? Even if you're scared out of your mind and you decided, I just have to show up. And I'm not talking about slow, incremental change, even though consistency and showing up is the most important thing. I truly have come to the conclusion that so many of us have a problem with following through because we always give ourselves way too much leeway. And that's something I've noticed with myself. I will come up with the best excuses and I'll make it fit into a perfect little box of why I can modify something or why I can just skip it or put it off until tomorrow. But you know what? The best version of me wouldn't do that. And she wouldn't let that slide because she knows her future. And that's another thing. I see my old self who's accomplished all of the things that I want and living this beautiful life where she's so much wiser and she's so much more at peace instead of living with regret and bitterness. And I almost imagine myself hugging that version of myself and her comforting me and being like, God, honey, I wish you could just breathe into it and just allow yourself to enjoy the unfolding and enjoy the process. You're gonna get there because that's who you are. But you have to realize that it's the process, it's the journey, it's you shifting into the life and living it, not you getting to a certain specific goal and then you're happy. And one of the deepest epiphanies that I truly had was the reason why we can't change, and the reason why we want to change our lives, and the reason why it always fails, and the reason why so many people relate to all of these things. I truly believe it's for the simple reason of you are not all in. You are not truly committed. And why is that? It's because of your belief. Your belief of yourself is telling you you don't actually believe that it can actually happen, that you can actually be that person, that you can achieve those things, that you can have the kind of life that's on your Pinterest board. So if you don't believe, why would you ever start the process? Because the truth is, you would have all the patience in the world and you would enjoy the process if you fully believed in the result, because the results become redundant when you've already decided there is no plan B. This is the kind of life I want. This is the kind of person I want to be. This is the kind of person I want to become. There is no plan B. There is no other way. And I think that from that space, you also allow such an open, free-flowing path for the universe to step in and help you and also show you the different ways that things are supposed to happen that are so serendipitous that you can't possibly imagine. When I decided that I wanted to move from where I lived and start my education and move to the other side of the country, things work out because I decided, but that doesn't mean it was easy or simple. And my big thing that I always go back to is my biggest struggle in my earlier years was that I was overweight. And it was seriously, food was my biggest comfort. I wanted to just kind of escape and feel good. But it was so far from the girl that I saw in my head. Now what do I do? Well, one day I decided that I'd had enough. And I changed. The weight didn't fall off me the first day. It took years because I had to literally recreate a new me, a new identity. And I can say that I've successfully done that. Doesn't mean I'm perfect. Doesn't mean I don't still have goals. It doesn't mean that I never gain weight. But it means that I've found the tools and I've had the conversations with myself and I've gone through the resistance and all the hard things enough times to genuinely say, you could call me fat. I wouldn't care because my identity doesn't belong there anymore. I don't belong in my past anymore. So if I'm not being a slave to my former fat self and her identity and her story, why would you do that with other areas in your life? Why would you punish yourself for a past story? Why even punish yourself for a current story instead of saying, from today on, I have this goal, or I have these things that I want to change. And first and foremost, I'm accepting that I have to change these certain things and that I want to feel these certain things. And you're going to be really honest with yourself. But unless you are, you're going to continuously go around this loop. And I just know that the older that we get, we're probably just going to find it so much harder to get out of it. And another thing is, for me, it wasn't just about setting goals. It was about breaking free from the toxic cycle of procrastination, avoidance, and perfectionism. It was about stopping the constant self-sabotage. It was about accepting that I'm going to be a beginner in life many times and that I'm going to have to look silly. I'm going to have to step out and be seen. That cycle where I felt like I wasn't good enough, so I'd hold back. I'd tell myself I wasn't ready and I'd wait until tomorrow. That's the biggest thing for me. I tell myself I'm not actually ready. I don't have the perfect plan, so I'll wait until tomorrow. Did I have the perfect plan? to go from fat to fit. No, I had enough and I decided to make a change. So suddenly I had all kinds of motivation and, most importantly, so much patience that people could barely recognize who I was. And it was because I made that inner switch. I knew what I wanted. I knew that I was so unhappy with who I was being. And so the goal became very clear because my inner voice up until then had constantly said to me, great to lose weight. And that'll be so much fun to like look them in the face and be like, haha, I told you I could. But the truth is, that's not what it was about. But then my voice would say, but realistically, how does it change your life just because you change your body? And literally, it changed everything for me in that time. I became an absolutely different person. So just know that your inner voice, when you start making changes, will absolutely try to just derail you and keep you safe. But here's the thing, you're not going to get closer to your dreams if you keep waiting. You have to start now, even if you're afraid, even if it means stepping into the unknown. You've got to get brutally honest with yourself. Where are you letting excuses win? Where are you letting them rule your life? Where are you constantly waiting for the perfect time? Because obviously there is no perfect time, there is just now. So what does action look like? Because it's not sitting down and planning your life to death. Action is about doing something every single day that moves you closer to who you want to be. It's about maintaining the identity you want to create. And that's not faking it. That's literally you becoming the person you say you want to become. Because you're gonna feel weird. You're gonna feel like an imposter on this road of change, but there is no other way. It's not all magical. You have to make a decision, and then you have to keep showing up again and again and again. You can't wait. It's about making decisions for yourself and for your own life and not waiting for permission, not waiting until all your insecurities and all your self-doubt is gone. You're not going to wait until you're ready because you're never going to be ready. Until you learn through enough experience to feel like that person, you're never going to be ready. So you can't wait to become something if the only way to become something is to do it, is to take action. You're never going to feel like it and you're never going to feel ready. And when that voice in your head starts to tell you, you're not ready, take a day off. You need to go home, Netflix and binge, drink, party, eat, escape, or it's not the right time. Maybe I'll do it tomorrow. Remind yourself of this. Tomorrow never comes. It's always another day in the future. Today is real, and today is the only time where you can make change happen. So stop waiting, stop listening to that voice that tells you tomorrow. There is only right now. Look, the world won't stop spinning because you don't show up. But here's the truth, your life won't change if you don't. And you need to act now because we do get one shot at this. And from what I believe, it's one life. And that really should create so much more of a sense of urgency. So if you keep waiting for the perfect conditions, the perfect mood, the perfect body, the perfect versions of ourselves to show up, we'll always be waiting. But what if I told you that you're already enough, that you have everything that you need to start? I'm going to leave you with this one question. What are you waiting for? Truly. The clock is ticking, and your future self is waiting for you to show up. And one day, you will look back and be glad that today, on this day, right now, you decided to start. If not now, when?